Hello and welcome back to Sex, Drugs, and Sound Bowls. I'm your host, Jessie Simon, and today we'll be exploring what it means to be a conscious curator, a mindful author of your life, deliberately weaving together the threads of your reality with intention, mindfulness, and gratitude. So this story for me begins at 9 years old, and I'm in the back of my parents' minivan with a fresh order of McDonald's in my lap. So growing up in a home with a terminal father meant a couple things. It meant, one, we were always broke. And two, there was never any white bread, white rice, cheese, quesadillas, soda, sugar in the house whatsoever. So to go to McDonald's was to partake in the sacrament of just worldly pleasure. It was joy, it was sugar, it was fat, it was deliciousness. As I sat in the back of this bumpy minivan, I picked up my soda to take my first sip, and I picked it up by the lid, and the entire thing, this rather large soda, just dumped all over my lap. And the first thing that happened was this huge wave of emotion, like of grief, of sadness, of disgust, I'm all sticky and cold. And then there was this tiny gap, this tiny moment where I realized no matter how upset I got about this soda in my lap, no matter how much I whined or cried or how miserable I let myself be, in the end I would still be wet and sticky and sodaless. And so I played in that gap with my power, with experimenting with just, okay, my soda's spilled, here we are, and focusing on the things I still did have, my fries, my cheeseburgers. This might seem mundane, but as someone who doesn't have a whole lot of memories of my childhood, that memory played itself out in the back of my mind, probably from that day on, till here, till right now. Fast forward a few years, and now I'm 12 or 13, and my father and I kept a diary that we would take turns writing in. I'd write to him and slip it under his pillow. He'd write to me and slip it under my pillow. And at the end of his journey with brain cancer, the experimental drugs he was on weren't working. And the journal entry he wrote me is all like on the right side of the page. The cancer and the medicine had made it so he lost function and vision along the left side of his body. And in the handwriting of a 2-year-old child, he scrawled, "The cancer treatment is not working. What are you feeling? Are you scared? I don't know what's next. I don't know if there is anything next." And as I stared at this chicken scratch, and I felt the terror rising in my body and the fear, my heart and my mind went back to that moment. McDonald's in the back of my parents' minivan. And I practiced again, feeling waves of calm wash through me. And I wrote back to him something along the lines of, no matter how much I worry, worrying won't change what happens. I love you. Fast forward a few more years still, and my sister has a music box. And one day the music box breaks for some reason or another, and the gears inside that make the music, the little metal gears that spin and twist and click, click, click to make the sound. On that box was written the words, "I write the song," in this beautiful old type. And I remember that a second that I saw those words, feeling it resonate, I can even feel it now, feeling it resonate through my heart space, through my spine. There was that wisdom again. 10 years later, I would get that exact font, that exact phrase, tattooed on my ribcage, a sweet and solemn reminder, I write the song. In the whirlwind of life that followed in my teens and early 20s, there was so much grief and pain. My father, although he was a troubled man, I remember laying in bed thinking that if he died, I would die. And I stayed in these loops for a long time, until by grace, by the natural unfolding of the path on my journey. It was revealed to me that there was a larger picture at play here, that there were gifts in the pain, little moments of gratitude for not getting what it was that I wanted. Because my father, who was troubled and abusive just as much as he was generous and kind and funny and loving, in the space that he left in my life, a benevolent and kind and loving man stepped in, my stepdad, Mark Rubidoux. And I think because I had this even short time of exposure to what a healthy masculine love could be like, I think it opened my consciousness, my mind, my heart to being able to receive the love that I have today with my partner, Matt. And so I wrote a song this summer, and it goes something like, in the chorus, "Thank God I didn't get what I wanted, because what I wanted was what I knew. And what I knew was brokenhearted, the song I sang before I met you. Bless the God who doesn't answer the prayers of the meek-hearted." Have you ever felt grateful, in hindsight, that you didn't get the thing that you wanted so bad? Motherhood has taught me a lot about this too, because my children mirror back to me my own experience of being a child of the universe. And say one day they want a popsicle and they want it so bad, and I'm like, not right now, darling, not right now. And they throw a fit, I want the popsicle now. And they're screaming, they're throwing themselves on the floor. They genuinely think they're gonna die, and that this popsicle is like the end all be all, the apex of happiness, of joy in this life, and if they can't have it. But they don't know that I've got this whole ice cream sundae party planned for this evening. And if I was to relent and give in and just give them the popsicle, there might be joy, right, in that moment. But think about what they'd be missing out on. And to me, this is mirroring the benevolence of the universe, of the cosmos. And like little children, we make our Costco lists of desires and wants and needs, and we send them out. And the wounded feminine, she's closed off. She thinks she has to earn, she has to fight, she has to prove, she has to struggle in order to receive. And so we try and we effort and we fight and we throw ourselves on the floor in a tantrum. And if the universe does relent, there might be a spark of joy. There might be a moment of fleeting happiness, but think about what we might be missing out on. We can never see the bigger picture. We can never see the bigger picture. The stories we tell ourselves, about the world, about our experiences in the world, they permeate us and they go straight to the soul of us. They curate and create our beliefs, and our beliefs create our experience in the world. And the first story so many of us are told about the origins of human, of love, of God, of the interaction and interrelation of all of these things of earth, is a tragic story of sinfulness, of punishment, of exile, of condemnation. And so if this is the origin story, if this is the first story of man, then somewhere deep inside of us is this feeling of lack, of sinfulness, of fear for the wrath, for the punishment that's coming for us. If we should let ourselves get too curious, if we should let ourselves think outside of the box, if we should let ourselves surrender and open ourselves to receiving the abundance, the generosity of the universe. And so we stay contracted, we stay fearful, we stay small, we stay stuck. But what if we started to rewrite those stories? When I look back on my childhood, that moment in the back of my parents' minivan, McDonald's Coca-Cola all over my lap, I can remember the feeling of joy. sticky, sopping wet. And still, a wave of peace as I knew there's nothing I can do about this, just where I am. But look what I still have. I can think back to the moment reading my father's chicken scratch and feeling so out of control, grief-stricken, and the wave of peace that followed as I acknowledged there's nothing I can do. And the power that started to stir in my body when I read those words, I write the song. And the way the power of those words would continue to reveal itself to me throughout the years as they permeated from the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. As I literally took the strings of pain that were too deep, that were too painful, too scary to look at, and I wove them unconsciously into something beautiful, into songs, into stories that I could share, that I was brave enough to share. And suddenly these unbearable loads, these unbearable feelings, they begin to alchemize, to transmute. When you're little and you imagine there to be some beastly monster under your bed and you hide under the sheets and the covers and you hide and you breathe and you sweat and you're hot and you're scared and the fear, it grows and grows and grows until someone turns on the light and says, let's look under the bed. And with the light on and the covers thrown up, what reveals itself to you is dust balls and old socks. This has been so much of the journey of my life. Hiding in fear, and then writing these fearful moments, these traumatic moments into something meaningful. This is shining the light of consciousness, of awareness on them, relating to them compassionately, learning to not take things so personally. And the more I'm able to do this, the more I'm able to see that the beastly monsters under the bed were really only upper dust bunnies and old socks. And no one was ever out to get me or to hurt me. That it was never personal. It was never because of anything I did or any way I am. It's just dust balls exist. And they're going to end up underneath my bed the same as they're going to end up under anybody else's bed. So what if the first story that we heard of the relationship of man, of earth, of divinity, was a more compassionate story? What if that story went something like this? A reimagined story of Adam and Eve. In the beginning, the earth was wild and abundant, a canvas of infinite possibility. The Creator, an essence of love and boundless creativity, formed two beings, Adam and Eve, the embodiment of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. They were gifted with the spark of consciousness, the ability to wonder and wander, and the capacity to create. They walked together in a garden brimming with life, a place where every plant, every animal, and every breath sang of interconnection. Among the trees in this garden stood one unlike the others, the tree of knowing. Its fruit shimmered with an inner light, a promise of deeper understanding. Yet the Creator spoke gently, saying, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat it, you will surely die." This command was a portal to man's first expression of free will. This first contradiction provided the fertile ground for free will to express itself, as it demanded that Adam and Eve confront complexity and consciously decide which direction to take. Without duality, there is no choice. Without choice, there is no free will. The death Creator spoke of was a death of an old way of being, an old way of relating, and of the birthing of a new way. For life and death have always been two sides of the same doorway. For a time, Adam and Eve explored the garden, reveling in its wonders and their own limitless creativity. But as they gazed upon the tree of knowing, they felt a stirring in their hearts, a whisper of something more, a longing to expand beyond their innocence, beyond their primal existence. One day, a serpent, sleek and wise, coiled itself near the tree. "Why do you hesitate?" it asked. "This fruit is not forbidden, it's an invitation. To taste it is to embark on a journey to see the world through new eyes, to create with the courage of the divine within you." Eve, courageous and curious, she reached for the fruit. Its weight in her hand felt like a question answered. She took a bite, and as the sweetness filled her senses, she felt the garden transform. Colors grew brighter and shadows deepened, and a new awareness blossomed within her. She handed the fruit to Adam, and together they embraced the awakening. The Creator, seeing this, smiled with bittersweet pride. "You have chosen the path of growth," they said. "It's not an easy road, for with knowledge comes responsibility. You'll face trials, but also triumphs. You'll create beauty and navigate pain. You are now co-creators of the world, shaping it with your choices, your love, and your courage." Although Creator knew it would ruin the story to tell how it ends. In place of punishment and curses and wrath, the Creator did his best to prepare Adam and Eve for what was to come. As the energy of life through them was just starting out on an epic odyssey that would work itself out over and through the generations to come. It would remain coiled like a serpent at the base of mankind's spine, in root and sacral, in labor and pain, in struggle and survival, like a seed underground, dormant, until through living the way of the journey, this energy of life through them would gather enough resources, enough energy, enough wisdom of experience, enough compassion to finally burst forth and free itself. And the serpent, bound to live life in the dust on its belly, would now rise up and up the spine, weaving together body, heart, mind, and spirit, finding its way back home to the one. Adam and Eve stepped beyond the garden, not as exiles, but as initiates. The wilderness awaited them, not as a punishment, but as a canvas. They carried the spark of divinity within, knowing they were now both students and teachers of life's mysteries. And so began the human story, a tale not of loss and shame, of sinfulness, of wrath and punishment, but of curiosity, bravery, and the eternal quest of gently teetering between duality and oneness. Only in the darkness do we come to recognize the light. Only through our pain do we learn to appreciate joy. Only through the journey do we ever find our way home. And even now, as I sit and remember and recount the moments, the powerful moments in my life where I was awakened to the truth that life has never been happening to me, it's always been happening for me. Even as I rewrite the story of origin in my own mind and heart and body, I know I'll wake up tomorrow again and forget. I know there will still be moments where I feel like a victim, where I feel deep in my bones that old story of sinfulness, of not enoughness, of unworthiness. I know there will always be the part of me that's waiting to be punished, exiled, kicked out. But when I close my eyes, I can see myself as this benevolent divine mother opening my arms to all the parts, pulling them back into my heart space and reminding them that I've got this. So today is just an invitation to look at the pivotal moments in your life, moments where you didn't get what you wanted, but in hindsight, it's exactly what you needed. And can we learn? Can we learn in moments of grief, in moments of pain, in moments where we think things aren't going our way? Can we learn to fall back into the knowing that there is a bigger picture, a bigger plan, that all around is the benevolence of a divine being that wants you to have more than you can even imagine or conceive of. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have wants or desires or dreams, but it's balancing this masculine energy of creation with the receptivity of the divine feminine, a softening and allowing, an observance. Notice the ways that you're fighting the river. Notice the ways that you're blocking yourself. Notice the ways you can look back and rewrite the story now into one where you're not the victim, where life isn't happening to you, but oh my God, it's always been happening for you. All your trials, all your tribulations, every pain, grief, and heartache has been preparing you, shaping you, training you, cultivating your heart of compassion, your resilience, so that you could be the version of yourself you are here today. If you have a moment, close your eyes. Take a moment to reflect on the journey, the trajectory of your life, the lows and the highs, and to just celebrate yourself. Wow, you've been through so much. Wow. And yet here you are. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me. Remember, your story, your healing, they matter more than you know. And every act of self-love, no matter how small, carries and echoes and ripples of vibration, of frequency, of authenticity. This authentic love is a love that can't help but change everything and everyone it comes into contact with. Love yourself. Heal the world. And remember to laugh along the way.